especially youth and young adults. And they've given us some information in reference to the importance of this kind of music, even though many of us might not understand the impact that it is having on youth themselves. Let's start with you, Pastor Walker, again, to give us some statements in reference to this, and then we'll pick up at Mr. Williams, and then we'll talk to Joel in reference and sort of get as much information into this second segment as we possibly can, because we will be joined by another person during this final segment.
Okay, Dr. Haney, what I was wanting to say is that music impacts us in both ways, in a negative and positive way. When I was coming up, back in the 60s and in the 70s, and back in those days, man, we had some positive music out there. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Keep Your Head to the Sky, Devotion, James Brown tells us, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Yeah. Then we had the OJ, they singing Stairway to Heaven, and then all these love songs, and the songs that they sung about women was telling us how to love them. Mm-hmm. There was love songs, and so we grew up having an awareness of a different type of awareness. It was that music was more designed to positively impact us. The blaxploitation movies that came out, Superfly, Hell Up in Harlem, Across 110th Street, all those type of things, they was having they produced the most negative effect up on our communities at that particular time, and they drove us in these various directions. But the movies doesn't reach us like the music. So nowadays you got the music, and what's happening is you got the negative music in some of this secular rap music and they putting video to that, so they got the visual and the audio effects of that, and it drives that negativity deeper down within a person. So what's happened is it's a poison that's in our community, that's in our society, and God has given the antidote to that, just like a flu shot. It's got a little bit of the flu virus in it to help to give you immunization against that flu virus itself. So here it is. God has taken Christian rap music as an antidote to the poison that's in this secular rap music, and we're being able to reach him. And I would love for pastors to embrace this and grab this and understand what God is doing, and quit being so locked up in traditionalism and ritualism and the churchy stuff that they missing what the movement of God in terms of our youth, because our youth are under attack, and God has provided a means to reach them because they're reaching them. I guarantee you they are reaching them because they're out there doing it.
Well, now, how are you reaching young people, Mr. Williams, in a real sense, with your secular rap music, and how do you reach them?
Well, I believe it's a language. It's just like Pastor had inclined that it's your form of music, and it was universal for your age range, and then our age range. It's a universal language. And hip hop is where we came up under. I was raised in this. I was born in the 70s, late 70s, 80s. That's all hip hop era. So loved hip hop, and so that's what the language that the youth are speaking. And so what we see is just these artists really portraying, being like puppets, really just influenced by an evil spirit to inflict their ways on the youth, and the youth are looking up to these artists, not even paying attention to the lyrics, or even they are, in the sense they know the lyrics. They know them. They know them more than they know their algebra, and they're looking at the images and the imagery, and they're not even understanding that the enemy is behind it. There's an evil influence that's taken over their mind and their spirit, and then they're wondering why their behavior is being, is terrible. They can't go in school and focus. They can't, excel to the next grade, or they're having so many problems at home or on any level that they touch. Their music is
in everything that. And Joel, since you appear to be the youngest of the group here, what impact do you feel that Christian music is having upon some of those negative influences that you were faced at one time?
Well, I'll tell you what I ran into. I never found a form of Christian music that appealed to me and the environment that I grew up in. I grew up in a household where my mom didn't listen to the traditional music like everybody else. In the early 90s, I grew up listening to Master P, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Tupac. That's the type of music my mom listened to. So I didn't necessarily have that where where most kids, you know, especially in the black community, usually have some form of traditional either praise and worship music. If it's not in your house or some other form, we did have it, but it was very minimal. So the impact that it's had on my life and the people around me, I just look at the influence, because when we talk about youth and young people, I think it has more of an adverse effect on the people that are older than us. Because if you look at the word talks about leadership, and everything comes from the head. So I don't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily say that it just pertains to the youth and or the young people. I would say it pertains to us as a whole, as a collective, as the United States. Because if you look at the things that we talk about in this music, you talk about glamorizing material wealth. You talk about glamorizing a lifestyle that is made up, a lifestyle that is Hollywood, if you want to call it that. And that where that comes from, it comes from our government. It doesn't come from the moms or the dads. The debt that we're prone to be in, especially in the hip-hop community, if you look at our country, what are we? We're trillions of dollars in debt. So how do you expect the people to overcome something that its head, that its leader has not yet to overcome? So when you talk about issues like that, I believe that's the hugest, the largest of the impact, because we're looking at our leaders, the music that we're talking about. If you talk about Ice Cube and Eazy-E and Dr. Dre and NWA, when they first came out, there was a ban on their music. But if you really get into it, this was a cry for help. These were young men saying, hey, we're struggling in our neighborhoods. We want somebody to help us. But what our government did was they allowed somebody to go in there and throw money at the situation. And then when you have things like that happen and people don't speak up, then that's how we get to where we are in 2014.
Wow.
Very good. Of course, we're going to take this second commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.